Welcome back to Law Talk, where if you have legal questions, we have legal answers. And today we have Rachel Hill, who's running for Superior Court. Thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, we're honored to have you. So how did you get into this? Why do you want to be a judge? Isn't that like everybody takes one step back and like, you're the only one left, or no?
You might want to, you might question my judgment wanting to be a judge, but actually there is an awful lot that a judge can do. You can help an awful lot of people, and having been in the justice system for the last 24 years, I've seen the opportunities that are there to really impact people's lives in a significant way. I've seen people come to the court at very critical moments in their lives.
Yeah, people are desperate.
Absolutely, whether it's their business, whether they're being sued, whether they're suing someone else, whether they're getting divorced, whether there's custody issues, or whether they're victims of a crime or people being charged with a crime. When people come to the court, it's usually at a time when the stakes are very high. And so you have the opportunity to really be involved in a way where you feel like you're making a big difference in the lives of the individuals involved and the community as a whole.
Yeah, somebody's got to make the decision, and it has big consequences
absolutely.
for everyone.
Absolutely.
They have to respect the process, and
right.
Sounds like I want to hear that from a judge that understands the gravity of what's going on if I have a case in front of them.
Right.
Where did you learn that?
Well, I think I learned that going way back would be my dad. My dad was probably the most formative figure in my life, even though he passed away when I was 13, but he had been involved in the state legislature, actually in Colorado during World War II. And I didn't learn about that until I was about 9 or 10 years old. Right, yeah. But I found out about that by looking through his scrapbooks and seeing some articles, and one was an Old Time magazine article that talked about a stand that he took against his party during the war. They were trying to pass a constitutional amendment to take land away from Japanese Americans and prohibit them from purchasing land or owning land. And that was a special session of the legislature called by the Republican governor, and my father was staunchly Republican. And he flew back for that vote. Actually, he could have dodged that vote. He was in Oklahoma at the time, and he flew back so that he could speak out on the floor of the legislature against it. And he was told
that takes courage.
Well, and he was told it
sounds
would
like it was kind of an unpopular position for him to take and to kill his career.
It did, and he was told it would. And actually, the Time magazine article references the fact that on the floor of the legislature, he stated that he was warned that he would kill his political career. But he said words that honestly still give me goosebumps when I think about them, which was that those of you who are here have asked us, you have no quirk of conscience when you ask us to lay down our lives, and he had been in the military overseas during the war, in support of our fundamental liberties. And so dying a political death was small potatoes.
Was he a lawyer too? Or?
He was not a lawyer, actually. He was very young. He was the youngest member who had been elected to the state legislature. He was 25 years old at the time. He was a sergeant in the Army Air Corps.
I see. Did you know that you were going to be a lawyer or wanted to be a lawyer or a judge when you were like in 4th grade or something like that?
Well, I didn't think about being a judge. I did think about being a lawyer, I think mostly because I wanted to make my father proud, and he suggested, even though he was not a lawyer, that I go to law school, and I was about 9 when he said this, go to law school, even if you don't want to be a lawyer, it's good for the discipline. so
I never heard that growing up. My dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse, my brother's a doctor. I'm the black sheep of the family because I'm a lawyer. I don't sue lawyers, but don't sue doctors. Don't sue lawyers either. But
my mother, on the other hand, my mother is an artist, and my mother was a little disappointed in me for choosing law school. She wanted me to become an artist, so.
So they both wanted to live vicariously through their daughter.
I think to a certain degree. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's how you got to be a lawyer, and then how do you end up running for judge? Is this something you've been thinking about, been wanting to do for a while?
Absolutely. It is something I've been wanting to do for a while, exactly for the reasons I discussed, because I'm hungry to do this job. I'm passionate about the justice system.
What's your job now?
Right now, okay.
Yeah.
I practice law, but I'm teaching at the law school right now.
Okay.
And I teach juvenile justice.
All
I've
right.
taught criminal law there. I have taught constitutional law and legal ethics. I love teaching as well, but I've got a fairly...
That sounds like more fun to be the professor than the law student.
Yeah, although I'm one of those odd sorts that actually loved law school, but that's that's a whole different story.
That wasn't me. I was happy to get out of there as fast as I could, but everybody comes from a different perspective.
Right.
All right. What are the responsibilities of a Superior Court judge, and how can you actually make a difference? Is it just within your courtroom, or is it more than that?
Well, I think it is broader than that because the people that come into your courtroom, they live in the community. And their family members are watching what's happening. The victims of crimes are seeing what's going on. Their family members are affected. The entire community is affected by what happens in a courtroom. And so when someone comes to the court, whether it be for a criminal matter or a civil matter, when they come there and they feel like they were heard and that the justice system took into account their perspective, even if they didn't necessarily get the outcome that they desired, I think that there is a renewed respect for the rule of law, for the foundations.
They feel like they got a fair shake.
Right.
Maybe they lost, maybe they won.
Right.
It's the process.
But they understood that you had reasoned. You had a reason for making the decision that you did, and that you didn't just make that decision without listening and hearing their perspective. And I think that can have a ripple effect throughout the community in terms of our faith that we can resolve our disputes without resorting to violence.
Yeah, that's certainly better than having vigilantes or getting upset that something didn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, changing gears a little bit. This is more of a philosophical question, is it better for a judge to be elected or appointed? And which system makes for the better judge? Because I've heard both sides, and I've changed my mind a couple of times. I just want what's your...
And, well, right now, if you ask me, it depends on the day and how much sleep I've been able to get. But I think there are virtues to both ways of becoming a judge. There certainly are virtues to the process of being appointed. It's more people who are involved in the legal community that are making the decision, and sometimes for the appointments, but it's ultimately the governor. You have very little control over that process. It is an understandably and necessarily secretive process because people want to be able to speak freely when they fill out evaluation forms and whatnot to the governor. But there's very little affirmatively that as a prospective judicial officer that you can do to try to make that happen. So, your name may be up there in the ether up in the governor's office, and you really may not know if it might be acted on, might never be acted on.
As opposed to elections where whoever signs up and pays, what is it, like $2,000 or something?
$3,000, and, well, there's a couple little places where you have to put some money down, but yeah, I mean, and you can choose to run and give it your all and put the extent of your efforts into it. Now, the downside that I see in a countywide election is that there aren't that many opportunities for voters who want to become informed about the candidates to really learn much about us. So
how would you suggest? I mean, you can go like Fresno. Can't you look something and do a Google search and look at Fresno B? They got like a candidate thing, maybe a voter guide or
well, and
like that.
You can, and I am participating in as many things as I possibly can. But I've
those
also
mainly lawyers that go or community activists?
Very often, yes. And I've approached some of the larger media outlets and mainstream stations, and at this point, at any rate, with 5 people in the race, they don't necessarily think that there's going to be enough in terms of interest or entertainment value to spend a lot of time on it, and that they'll have the ratings and the viewership.
Well, are they going to do this again? It doesn't have to get somebody has to get 51% split out of those 5, right?
Right, and if that doesn't
Otherwise,
happen,
it's top 2.
right. then the top two.
So we could be,
we
maybe
go
the
on.
media's waiting for November.
Well, and I
when
think that is.
yeah.
I think that's where they are. However, when you're dealing with, when you're the voter and you're looking at 5 names on a ballot, you may know very little about them, even if you try to.
Speaking of
Right.
ballots,
Yes.
let's see. Here's a ballot.
Yes.
I got mine in the mail the other day. I don't know
Yep.
if this is legal or not to put my ballot on the TV, but we're doing it.
You do. Okay.
And let's see. Where are you? This is
I
the back
am
of the ballot.
under judicial,
Oh my
judge
gosh.
of the Superior Court, seat 15,
All the way in the back.
all the way in the back. And
Right in
I
the
might
middle.
be at the worst spot. This is what they tell me.
Oh,
Having
no
my
way.
name 4th out of 5 is the worst. At the bottom, it stands out. At the top, it certainly stands out.
There's
And
only
then-
2 girls
Right.
and 3 boys.
Exactly.
And when I was in 6th grade, it was if there was 4 boys and 1 girl, the girl always won. Right?
Well,
is it still like that?
You know, I don't think so, and I hope not. I hope that it's based on the merit, and that people do, you know, for instance, go to our website, do things. You have to be more proactive to be an informed voter in a judicial race than in other races, because
Isn't it
not
pretty
as
good
much.
just to vote? Is it like 1 in 10 that are expected to vote here?
I think
Maybe?
they anticipate actually a higher turnout than
Okay.
that, but it's still a fairly low turnout. It's, you know, it is a non-presidential primary election.
Okay,
so-
we're running out of time.
Okay.
Here's a ballot. I think that you can still sign up and register to
Yes.
vote. Can you tell us what, do you know the deadlines
Yeah,
maybe?
I believe it's the 19th, and you can still register to vote, and I would very much encourage people to do that, because
Okay.
that's how you get your voice heard, and you help make your community a better place.
I think there's actually some people who have already voted.
Yes, there are. The absentees
It's already
started to drop.
starting.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. If you want to come on again before the election, close to the time, you're welcome to.
Well, I would love to.
We have more to talk about.
Okay.
But this is Chris White at Law Talk on Central Valley Talk, where if you have legal answers, if you have legal questions, we have legal answers. Sometimes people want to be their own attorney, and they think they got their own legal answers, but that's probably not a very good idea. Anyway, we're coming right back with Michael Salvador, who's running for Madera County Sheriff.